than the footprint it takes. Because we put a barn owl box in one side and the little owl box in the other, and glory be, in the first year the barn owls bred in the barn owl box and the little owls bred in the little owl box. In fact, tiny little owl babies fell out, which they sometimes do, and you could actually go and pick them up. They run around like, you know, picture an egg with the feet sticking out the bottom. To run around, I could pick them up, and then I could go and climb up the ladder inside the barn and put them through the secret trapdoor back in there. Mum and Dad must wonder what the kids were doing. Let's do it again. And after all the, we had lots and lots of fights with the planning officer, the thing we wanted to do. And after it was all done, without really telling us, it became a conservation area, like, because they were so proud of it. They were so proud of it. We were the people that built the bloody thing. I like disliking authority. And the nice thing now is that I can actually bully the bullies, because they wonder if I know a bully who's even bigger than them.
Okay. What question do you never get asked that you wish someone would ask you, or is there something in particular you would like to say to us, your US fans, at the first North American Discworld Convention?
Well, first of all, thank you to those, and you know who you are, who were there at the beginning. The history of my US publication, publishing, I've referred to at various times. But it was all very puzzling. Discworld started more or less at the same time in both countries. And I think that I subsequently heard that the head of the publishers in the US just didn't think it would work. And it does seem to me that if the boss doesn't think it's going to work, how hard are the underlings going to try to make it work? And some of you in the audience may recall when I would be invited after a while to be guest of honour at conventions in the States, and I would go there and the publisher paid no attention to the fact that I was on, I'd been up and say, hi, I'm actually going to be in Indianapolis or wherever it's going to be. Nothing happened. And it started getting really weird, and again, I know there are people in the audience that can assert this. I would go along to WorldCon, and I would have a queue round the block, and it was made up of Americans holding English hardcovers, grey imports, and it was getting, and my editor at the time was sitting there glumly as more coming up. Occasionally there was the not very well printed on an awfully covered American paperback, but mostly it was the hardcovers. And it was getting laughable. And then a number of things happened. First, I got Ralph Piccinanza as my agent. And he started gingering things along. But he also worked out how much money the publishers were losing by not actually doing hardcovers. So the hardcovers started to happen. And you all said they've got horrible covers. But you always say that sort of thing anyway. and yes, shall we say, not all of them were very well thought out covers. But you have actually said that about later covers, which turned out to be very successful. I'm sorry to say that, but it's true. And I personally really loved the cover of Monstrous Regiment over here, because it was a clever cover, and it kind of gave you the clue to what was happening, and I just liked it. Anyhow, things started to move a bit, and then I did the famous horrible tour in 1986. Seth reminded me. I think I actually filled one store, but it was a store in New York that held about 5 people. In fact, I think the owner had to get out and stand on the outside if there are too many people in the store. And then the lovely Jennifer became my editor. And it really was this, I mentioned it before, this sudden change in my part. The publishers merged, and suddenly, it almost seemed overnight, all the drops of mercury ran together, because the 2000 tour, it was as if the earlier tour never happened. You know, I'm very pleased about that, because, as I said at the beginning, there was a second chance, and the second chance worked. It annoys me sometimes that if the right people had been in the right position a decade earlier, things would have been much better advanced. But I've been told, what was it? I was told I was the 7th in some kind of bestseller list. I was number 7 in the non-American author chart. Okay, I get sent all kinds of stuff periodically that they say, you're doing kind of okay. given what there was before, kind of okay is pretty good. It could have been a lot better than that. But on the other hand, it has turned out pretty well, otherwise I wouldn't be here. So there we are. Anything else I want to add? I think it's a very strange world being a writer, because you spend it most of the time in your own head. And if you're me, you're constantly researching, but you don't know what you're researching for. You read all kinds of stuff because it looks interesting. And fortunately, my wife and my daughter know about this. So for Christmas, I get big packages of books with, like, a history of false teeth. Or, you know, the wonderful history of pins. So I do serendipitous reading. And so you read a book about the history of pins, and there is something in it that you never knew, and it's not about pins, it's about something else. There's an aside, and it turns out, for example, that at the times of James I, if you bought a pair of shoes, you got 2 shoes. There wasn't a right and a left, they were just shoes. Things haven't changed much, but we don't do it like that. We thought, that's kind of weird. Does it change the universe in any way? No, but it might make your feet a little more comfortable. And you just kind of like it because it's such a strange thing to find out. And all those things eventually funnel around, and some of them find their way into this world book. And there's quite a lot of that sort of thing in Unseen Academical, which, that's it really. Unless there are more pressing questions, I think that we've probably reached an end. Do you want me to say something valedictory? You are Americans, so you want the valedictory bit.
Canadians.
Sorry?
And Canadians.
And Canadians. Well, you know,
And British.
Well, yeah, well, okay, but I mean, let's face it, Canadians are kind of I was in Canada, and there'd been a poll